Welcome to St Mary's Church in Beverley. St Mary's is known for its glorious medieval architecture, its colourful ceilings, and the host of curious carvings that can be found throughout the building. However, today I'm going to introduce you to one of St Mary's lesser known features, the so-called priest rooms. These rooms are hidden away above St Michael's Chapel at the east end of the church and are home to all manner of treasures from St Mary's and Beverley's past. We access the priest rooms through a small door tucked away in the retro choir. The doorway is about 600 years old and contains this grimacing creature looking down on all those who pass through. We climb up to the priest rooms via this narrow, winding staircase. The priest rooms consist of two areas, this main central room and a smaller side room. The rooms were built in the mid-14th century, but their original function is not known. However, as suggested by their name, at some point they may have been used to accommodate visiting priests. Today the priest rooms function as a kind of museum, a veritable cabinet of curiosities packed full of all kinds of fascinating and rare items, several of which are over 500 years old. The cool temperatures up here help to keep the objects in the best possible condition, but for reasons of safety and security, we only open up the priest rooms to the public once or twice a year. To give you a sneak peek into what can be found up here, today I'll show just a couple of items and explain what they can tell us about St Mary's history. Probably my favourite items up here are these two medieval ceiling panels. These panels originally came from the roof of St Mary's chancel. The chancel ceiling is decorated with the portraits of 40 kings of England, including Anglo-Saxon kings like Alfred the Great and Edward the Confessor, and medieval rulers such as William the Conqueror and Henry V. This ceiling of kings was originally made in 1445. As you might expect, over the following 500 years, the panels and their paintings decayed. In the 1930s, this ceiling of kings was repaired and repainted. It is likely that this was when these old panels were removed and brought up here in order to make space for new ones. One of these panels is still in relatively good condition and shows King Edward III holding a long sword and a golden sceptre. We can tell that it's Edward III because of this scroll that frames the portrait. It is in Latin and reads, Rex Edwardus Tertius, King Edward III, reigned 51 years and is buried at Westminster. This second panel initially looks like just one portrait, but closer inspection reveals that it's made up of the pieces of two different panels mixed together. The real giveaway are these two right hands, each grasping a sword. A little bit of detective work reveals that this is the portrait of King Stephen, who ruled in the 12th century, interspersed with a single plank of wood from the portrait of King Henry VI. What I love about these panels is that they give us the truly unique opportunity to see these pieces of art up close. They were of course intended to be displayed on a ceiling, but from this perspective we can glimpse the king's wonderful and intricate facial expressions and marvel in this golden decoration. Through these panels and the ceiling of kings in general, the artists working at St Mary's 500 years ago were seeking to celebrate and glorify English monarchy. While these panels bring insight into national history, elsewhere in the priest rooms we find more personal and intimate artefacts from the past. One of the most poignant of these is this Maiden's garland. Maiden's garlands were carried at the funeral of a deceased unmarried woman and were usually decorated with flowers, coloured paper or gloves. After the funeral, the garland would be hung in the church. The writing on this garland tells us that it was made for Elizabeth Eleanor, who was born on the 7th of October 1658 and died on the 14th of August 1680 when she was just 21 years old. Elizabeth's garland is the oldest known to survive in England and is therefore an item of huge historical value. But for me, it's also a very intimate window into the past and allows us to glimpse a person who lived and died in Beverley some 340 years ago. I think that the two objects I've shown you today really capture what is most special and magnificent about St Mary's priest rooms. There are many more stories from the priest rooms and St Mary's to uncover. Up here we find magnificent medieval treasures and snapshots into the lives of our ancestors.